is the one we've all been waiting for. It's good night, Freak and Irene! Let's get ready to rumble! Time! And knows how to knock people the fire truck out!
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the #1 combat sports podcast in the world, the Fight Chase Muay Thai and Mixed Martial Arts podcast. Today we have a super special guest, Sylvie von Duuglas-Ittu. Sylvie is currently living in Thailand. She's a professional Muay Thai fighter with 264 professional Muay Thai fights. So let's get right into it and introduce you to Sylvie.
So basically what I start out is kind of like, where did your journey begin? I mean, it's such a long journey in kind of almost a short time, but how did you get into martial arts initially?
This is kind of, it's kind of an odd question for me because I would love to have some kind of like super awesome origin story. Like, I fell into a vat of Muay Thai acid or something. But it kind of is like that. Like it's mundane in the sense of that I didn't really do martial arts as a kid in any way. I played soccer. I'm from Colorado, so I was outdoors a lot. I only have brothers, so I was very like active growing up. But really it was just kind of like when I finally came in contact with Muay Thai, once I'd actually seen it, it was kind of the first martial art that I was like, I'd like to do that. Like I was never like, I want to put my body in that position when I'd seen other martial arts. And so the kind of mundane part of it is that I just saw it and was like, let's try that. But the true way that I got into Muay Thai is that I met my first trainer, Master K, who was a 70-year-old Thai man training people out of his basement in New Jersey. He's just an incredible man. He's in his late 80s now, and he's still just kicking things, making sure his wife isn't home so that he can kick the pillar in the basement because she doesn't like it and stuff. And I think that meeting him really, truly is how I got into Muay Thai.
I think that something like that, that's an amazing origin story because literally it is, because most of us, when we do start, Kurt had experience, but like at Vanderlei's, we didn't have a Thai experience by any means. We had a very Brazilian, I don't know how familiar with Vanderlei Silva you are, but he was like a Muay Thai fighter, but not really at all. His stance was like this. There was no, so when we were training, it was really heavy combo based, very long drawn out combos and things that as soon as I went to Thailand, I was like, what did we learn? I don't even know. Like, it wasn't kickboxing. There was a big difference in what we were learning until I started going to Thailand, and I was like, oh, this makes so much more sense though. So
he's shoot boxing, right?
Yeah, but they in the UFC they would call it Muay Thai.
Right. Well, they still call things Muay Thai in the UFC. That's pretty minimal. But the thing with Master K is that he was teaching me these like PhD level techniques that I just could not handle from the experience that I actually had. So when we finally came to Thailand for the first time, it was kind of like the recon mission to like see what Thailand was like. I had the experience you had where it wasn't a difference from what Master K was teaching me. It wasn't like that wasn't Muay Thai and this is, but suddenly so many things about Master K made sense. I'm like, oh, it's a Thai thing.
Yeah.
I didn't realize that. But seeing how Muay Thai is done in Thailand, like the way of life and the slow cook method, and that it's twice a day, every day, and you just get into it. Once you experience that, it's like sugar on the tongue. Nobody has to explain to you what sweet is. Like, you know what that is. And the minute Kevin and I came to Thailand, we were like, we have to come back here. Like, we weren't even gone yet, and we were like, we have to come back here for a longer time.
Kurt and I both. I mean, I was leaving, and I've told the story a million times. Within the first week that I got back from my first 30 days in Thailand, I had another ticket 3 months later.
It was just 2 years to get back, but it was the same, like, just 2 years of like, we have to get back.
Yeah. And what was your first experience? Like, where did you go? Like, what did you do when you first went over? Did you go over to experience Muay Thai or Thailand?
To experience Muay Thai. we went to Chiang Mai and we went to Lana Muay Thai. And the reason we had chosen that camp is that there was another woman my size named Sylvie who was Canadian. And she had managed to fight 50 times in about 5 years or so. And it was like, if she can do that, I can at least fight at all. Like, I didn't have in my head the idea of 50 fights until after we came. But Sylvie Charbonneau really is who inspired me to go to Chiang Mai. Master K, my trainer in America, had to have angioplasty, and the kind of his mortality in my face is really what prompted us to go. But the reason we chose Chiang Mai was we thought I could fight there as a small woman, and it proved to be very true. And Chiang Mai is kind of the like mecca for female Muay Thai in Thailand. So when we went back 2 years later and made that like our home base, we thought maybe we could stay for 6 months or something. And so the goal was to just fight as much as possible. And that goal kind of hasn't changed, but it definitely never had in my mind that, 264 fights and onward was possible at that time. It just kind of has progressed from there.
So you're at 264 fights now?
Right now, yeah, and I'm stalled because of COVID.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I'd be in the 70s. So, yeah.
What are you doing with your? I mean, that's astronomical. And I saw you post something. Is it? I don't remember exactly what it was. It was a high number. Was it all-time foreign fighter or all-time foreign female fighter that you posted that you wanted to achieve? Like the highest.
I'm male or female. I have more than anyone, male or female, as a Westerner in Thailand.
You already have now?
I already have now.
Yeah,
but the ultimate goal now, like what we've moved it to, is 471, and that's because a boxer from England named Glenn Wickwar in the 50s, like 40s, 50s, he has a documented 470 fights. So I want to beat him with 471.
471 in Thailand or just 471 fights?
It'll be in Thailand.
No, I mean for him.
Oh no, he was British. So
okay, so that was just
right, those were just straight boxing fights, right?
Yeah, he was like a journeyman. He was like doing these weekend fights kind of thing. Yeah.
Okay, so it was.
But, I mean, they're professional fights. Yeah.
Is that the highest documented fights of a professional fighter that you found?
Yeah, the distinction being that there's actually a record for each one of those fights. Yeah. You get these Thai fighters who are like, I have 200 fights, 300 fights, but they're estimating. Like, they're like, I don't know, I fought a lot when I was a kid, kind of thing. They don't remember. They don't keep a record of it. So for him, it's documented, and I'm documented. I have video of all my fights.
So when did you start your fight? Did you fight the first time you went over to Chiang Mai?
I did, yeah. I had one fight in America before going to Thailand for the first trip. I fought about a year into my Muay Thai career, and I was down in Virginia in America. So my second fight was in Thailand, and we came for 10 weeks, and I fought 3 times in those 10 weeks. Then we went home for 2 years, and I think I had maybe 8 fights in that time. And then the rest of them have been here in Thailand since we moved back.
Could you imagine 8 fights in a year in Thailand?
It'd be like, what are you doing?
It would be like, what are you doing? Because most of us would be okay with that.
Yeah.
You'd be bored. They'd be like, well, what's going on next week?
Yeah, it'd be like chewing my own arm off or something, yeah.
So you got over there, and when you went back, so you came back to the States and you were like, this is it, we got to go. You said the plan was to go for another 6 months?
Yeah, it was kind of like, what's feasible? Like, what can we afford? What can a visa do? All of these different things that's like, if we can make 6 months, hopefully it'll be more than that, but like, we think that 6 months is doable. And I remember climbing into the truck, I think the first time we came out to Thailand, so 2 years prior to moving here, we were climbing into the truck after one of my fights, and I told Andy Thompson, who was the Scottish owner of Lana Muay Thai, that I wanted 50 fights. And he kind of like did one of those record scratch looks for a second. And then he just 2 beats later was like, all right then. Like, this is just going to happen. And like that kind of response I think, early on, made the kind of thing that's like, okay, maybe we can only go for 6 months. I have no idea how many times I can fight in that amount of time. Maybe, 20 kind of thing. But it just, the kind of culture that Thailand has for fighting and the kind of drive I have for fighting to make it happen and kind of going to the right place where the fight opportunity was there. I'm very lucky in that I'm tiny, very small. So I have a lot of fight opportunities. Women who come here who are 65, 70 kilos, they constantly have to fight someone smaller. Me being the smaller fighter, I can say yes to someone bigger than me. But if you're big, you have to wait for someone smaller than you to say yes. So I've had a lot of opportunity that women in different circumstances don't have because I'm freakishly small.
And that works well for fighting in Thailand.
Yeah.
So you went back to Chiang Mai, and that was your home base for the initial 6 months. How long did you end up staying there?
We stayed in Chiang Mai for about 2.5 years. And after that, we moved down to Pattaya, and we've been in Pattaya for 6 years now. So all told, we've been in Thailand for 8 years.
Wow.
And 6 of them have been down here in Pattaya, and the first 2 and some change were up in Chiang Mai.
And what prompted you to go down in Pattaya? Like, what was the move for? I know. I'm sure it's the nightlife and the partying, right?
Yeah, totally. I'm like every night.
I was there the year that I was there. I was there like before I came back in July for my visa and then got stuck here. But the whole year that I was there, I was on Walking Street twice. Once I walked down, I'm like, I remember I don't like any of this. I went back to the condo. I'm like, no, I'll go over to Bangkok and train tomorrow or something. This is like, I just wasn't with it. So it's like I stayed over in Jomtien.
There's an amazing thing about Pattaya, which is that it definitely has a reputation, but it's actually pretty easy to stay out of the red light district.
Yeah.
You're right outside of Reno. You know that Vegas has the Strip, but everything outside of that is not anything like the Strip. If you go to New York and you don't want to go to Times Square, you're not going to experience the same thing as if you're like hanging out in Times Square all the time. So Pattaya definitely has earned its reputation for that area, but when you stay away from it, it's actually got a very small town feel to it, which to me was interesting coming from Chiang Mai, because Chiang Mai is like, I grew up in Boulder, Colorado. Chiang Mai is like Boulder East. Like college town, hippies, like nobody wears real pants. They're all the like, elephant pant kind of thing. There's like a weird degree of dreadlocks on white people up there and stuff like that. But it's a beautiful place. Chiang Mai is a wonderful place. I totally understand why people fall in love with it. I felt like it was home for a very long time. And when we came to Pattaya first as like a recon mission before moving here. And the reason we came down here is because Sakman Khon, who I had met, I actually fought on the same card as him in Vegas, and then trained with him very briefly in Colorado before moving to Thailand. So we knew him. And he was teaching at a gym in Pattaya. So we came down to train with Sakman Khon. And the gym he was at only trained once a day. So we had to find another one for the mornings, which is how I found the gym that I'm at now. Patron, that was my morning gym. But if you had asked me, would I ever go to Pattaya? No. It's not in a million years. But because we had someone that we wanted to train with here, and then once we actually experienced it, and I just completely fell in love with my gym that I'm at now, Patron. The reason we ended up moving from Chiang Mai, which is a like just brilliant fight place for women, especially women my size in Chiang Mai, is like a great place to fight, to a place where I cannot fight and I have to like travel around the country with this as my base, is because Chiang Mai is very conservative culturally, and I could not get clinch training there. The gym I was at, Lana Muay Thai, actually had 2 separate rings. There was the men's ring, and then they call it the women's ring, but it's men and women. It's just we're allowed in there. And all the clinching would take place in the men's ring. All the sparring would take place in the men's ring. So I was just completely left out of lots of really important work that I needed. And all gyms change. All gyms go through cycles, and it was going through a cycle that it was a good time for me to change. And when we came down to Pattaya, the gym I'm at now, Patron, had a bunch of young boys. So not only were they small, they were, 45, 46 kilos, around the same size that I am now, and they're all now like 60 kilos. But they were also like on the young end of teenager, so they were like 12, 13. So at that age, boys are kind of like pre-sexual, so it was okay for me to be clinching with them, whereas the boys that were up in Chiang Mai were like 18, 19, and so it was not appropriate for me to get any clinch training up there. So that was really why we moved down to Pattaya in the first place.
In Pattaya, I mean, there's many gyms. I didn't get a chance to visit your gym. I went by there one day and it was closed. I don't even know how I ended up going by there, because how I found most Muay Thai gyms in Thailand is wandering, and I was wandering by the street that your gym is on, and I'm like, I think I know that name from somewhere. I walked down the street and it was closed, but I was like, okay, now I know where it is. But I mean, as far as that goes, like, that's from what I saw and what I've seen in your videos, it's a very grassroots, traditional Muay Thai gym. How do you feel about something like Fairtex compared to that, as far as like the grand scheme of the gyms in Thailand? And it branches out even more, because I'll ask you about something else in a second that I didn't even think about.
Here's the thing, is that not every gym is right for everybody.
Exactly.
So I wouldn't recommend my gym for everybody, even though I absolutely love it. I sometimes am laughing to myself because a lot of people contact me asking me where they should go train, which is fair. You know, I understand why people are asking me, because they have no idea and they think that I have some idea. But sometimes they'll contact me and they're like, I'm 6'1" and 95 kilos, and I'm like, I'm 5'1" and 45 kilos. Like, my gym is not the right gym for you. We're not the same. But I think that Fairtex has its place. Like, it is the right gym for a lot of people who want to come and have kind of like a nice place to stay. They want to train. You can get serious training there. You can get fun training there. Now that they've kind of gone through cycles as well. Like, they're kind of picking back up with their reputation now that they have Stamp and like won championship fighters and stuff. So people get a thrill out of going and like, training next to Stamp and that kind of thing. So I think it's cool that gyms can be so different. And I think the difficult part is that the reputation of a gym is never quite accurate to where it's currently at. It's always like a little bit behind.
Yeah,
so people will go to a place expecting it to be one way, and it might not be that way anymore. But it'll change and cycle its way through different ways as well. So I think that there are a lot of gyms in Pattaya now. There didn't used to be. There are a lot of them now, and I think most of them are kind of more on that Fairtex end. Yeah. Especially because they built Max Muay Thai here. So a lot of people come here specifically for that. But the little gyms that, again, you're wandering down an alley and you're like, I don't even know if this street continues. And you end up, like Rambaz gym is just full of little grommets that are like, 8 and 9 years old, and there's like 30 of them. You just run into that. Like, it's cool that there's that difference in one place.
Yeah, I went when I trained at Sityodtong over there, and I was like, I hate jumping rope. That's just something I hate it. And it was early into one of my trips, and I went and trained over there. And the little kids, probably 8 years old, just jumping rope next to me, staring at me like I was a joke. And he just kept going. I'm like, I get it. You're like Rocky. I get it. And I finished. Like, they're like, okay, go jump on the tire. And he's like, this kid just looking at me. I'm like, all right, you're a pro. I get it. But like, even that gym in the States, it has like, because Mark Delagrati's made it like a very nice gym, and there's just affiliate gyms and stuff like that. So that gym has like a Fairtex type name in the States. But if you go to the original, it's like, it's not that, which I love. I personally like the gyms like that.
Yeah, it's changed a lot since Master Yodtong died and his kids took over. It's changed as well, but that happens everywhere. So
yeah. So now, with those big box gyms, I mean, Fairtex, even when you go to Fairtex isn't on the same level as like Tiger. As far as when you go into Fairtex, they have not a ton of open classes. Like you can go there and train, but it's not just overloaded with foreigners in their training and on holiday vacations. Now I went down, I've trained at Tiger, trained at Top Team. I know a lot of people that once they go down there, they go to Phuket and they don't leave the soy. And they're literally, I went down there to do a pad holders course just to kind of get a feel for holding pads in a Thai perspective. Like I've held pads, I've coached and all that, but I wanted a different like view of it. My pad holders course was there the first day. They're like, hold the pads this way and this way. For 2 weeks, I held pads and trained a fighter. Like that was my. They were like, okay, go do this, and I'm like, you're training. They were like, you're training him twice a day, every day. Be here. That's what you're doing. You're his trainer. I'm like, oh, okay. So I'm like, that's pretty legit. Hope he doesn't lose. And so, but it was funny because when I went over there, one of our friends, who is an MMA fighter, was fighting. He had a UFC fight coming up, so he went over and he was training at Tiger, and I trained at Tiger and I did not have a good experience. And again, when I do my reviews on gyms, it's only my experience, and that's what I put out. And I try to put out like a basic overview of like how much I paid, where the gym was, where I stayed, how the facility like upkeep was, and then just my experience, like my interaction with the trainers and the other people training and stuff like that. So it's very my opinion, and I never try and put anything out like don't go there or go here or anything like that. If I had a great time, I did. If I didn't, all right, this is my experience. So at Tiger, it's just too big for me. And people ask me, where should I go to train? I'm like, your first trip, if you want to go to Phuket, train at Tiger, but don't go there for a month and that be your camp. I'm like, you have to, because when I was on that soy and we were talking to my friend, I'm like, look, I haven't heard this much English, and I was already in Pattaya for 8 months. I was like, I haven't heard this much English in a long time. Like, no one spoke Thai on the whole soy, and it was okay. And I'm like, this just isn't. People are going there, and I met people before I ever went to Thailand. They're like, yeah, I went to Thailand. I stayed in Phuket. I trained at Tiger. I had fights and all this stuff, and then in our mind, we're going, oh, they went to Thailand and trained. And then when you go there, you're like, you went to like Club Med and learn Muay Thai. I mean, that's after you have the whole picture. That's kind of what it comes out to. Like, in my opinion, that's how it seems to me. I mean, you don't really have to, with where you're fighting and things that you're doing, you don't really have experience dealing with that whole crowd or anything like that. Have you ever visited any of those gyms down there?
I've gone into very big gyms in order to train with a legend, like for my Muay Thai Library or something like that. I've never had like a regular training session at one of them. I've been to Fairtex actually to clinch with Stamp, but never did their like normal training. Pattaya, again, it has like a small town thing about it, so I actually knew like 5 of the trainers from where they had trained in other places before, stuff like that. But I think that it's one of these things that, like, it also depends on your own acclimation. Like, you've been to Thailand a number of times, so the number of things that are going to be exotic to you is different. My brother Shane came to visit me, and I was like, he'll be fine going into a mall. It's a mall. Like, every single Nike store is the same. The food is very Western, all this stuff. He was, like, mind blown being in a mall in Thailand because, like, he couldn't read all the signs. I was like, clearly I'm out of touch with like what, that shore looks like. So I think that for some people, when they come to Thailand, even a place like that for us, we're like, nobody's even speaking Thai. Like, you're not in Thailand. For us, to them, that's the right level of exotic. They have a Thai trainer. They're getting the twice a days. A lot of people, when they come to Thailand, really, really want to be able to communicate with their trainer. And I'm like, you don't have to say kick to kick.
Right.
Kick. But people are very uncomfortable. A lot of people are traveling alone. And I think that there's a comfort to kind of having seen a place before, or it's not too exotic for you, or they're not going to push you too hard. They're not going to make you jump rope for 45 minutes and then go on the tire for 20 minutes. So I think that people just, they're looking for different things when they come. And the more people like you and me who have more experience in that can kind of like show the way of like, well, this is this way and this is that way, that helps people be able to see it. And I don't know if this is the case for men, but I absolutely, for women, when they're going to go to a big gym on Phuket or maybe in Bangkok or something, a lot of times these bigger gyms that have websites or have Facebook or something like this, they have like prepaid package deals.
Yeah.
And I'm like, don't prepay ever. Like, go and try it for a couple of days. And if you love it, then pay for the month. But if you go and you pay for a month and you hate it, you're stuck. You're screwed.
Exactly. Yeah.
A month. And for women, it can actually be quite dangerous. Like, you can be in a place that you're very uncomfortable for a long time, and you have no other place to go. So I always recommend to people, have a scouting mission. Even if you think for sure you want to stay for a month, plan for that, but have a backup and only pay for the first couple of days, and then you can do your whole package deal.
Yeah, definitely. And I've met people, when I was over there for the pad holders course, I met a kid that was from Massachusetts, and he had followed me. And it's funny, my name is Kelly, and somehow I'm all of a sudden named Chase. Like, like I'm walking and people are like, Chase. I'm like, what?
Do they think your first name is Fight?
That's what I'm like.
Yeah.
Okay. So I don't even know that I ever corrected him. But anyway, so he had gone down and he booked like everything before he got there.
Yeah.
So he had the whole package at Tiger, and like I said, that's cool because you're going to be comfortable your first time.
Right.
But a month is a long time. And then when you start to be comfortable, you see, oh, that small gym looked really cool. But you've just paid all this money and you got to train. Oh, I have my trainer's waiting for me tonight. So you're like, you don't go and see the other things. And there are decent gyms in Phuket, and there's smaller gyms. You posted, did you train at that gym that overlooks the water?
Kru Ali. Yeah.
I went there.
Cool.
I tried to schedule, like I walked. So I stayed like, I don't know, way far away, and I walked. So I walked up there, and I don't even know how I found it. Like I was walking around, and I think I looked up the gym, and I was like, oh, it's right up on the hill. Well, the hill's really far. And so I walked up there, and the gym was amazing. Like, it's like, just, you look like you're going to fall off of the mountain into the water. And so I had called him, and he's like, okay, yeah, come tomorrow. And then I called before I went, oh no, I can't come in today. And I'm like, okay. So I didn't end up getting a train there, but the gym looked really cool. But again, that's another like small, like old school looking gym. Was that a cool experience there?
It was totally cool. He's in the Muay Thai Library, and he's such a character. He's got his chest belly pads, like one of those turtles that like like boxers wear or whatever. So it's like the chest protector and the belly pad together. And he's just kind of like walking around, and he's like, people nowadays have no idea what they're doing with Muay Thai. Champions get champions this way and that way, and just like, it's one of those things where he had solid technique, and he actually comes from like an old school style that was really cool to capture. But capturing him was like gold. Like this type of dude is just like, he was pretty amazing. But again, that's one of those gyms that like, if you're sitting at your home in Massachusetts Googling around what gym you want to go to, you're not going to find that gym.
Exactly.
Like, you kind of have to, you're like sitting on Patron Beach, and you're like, what the hell is that? Like, I'm going to walk up there and see what that is. Yeah.
Yep. No, and again, I don't know how many gyms I found just by hearing pads. Like walking around and you hear pads or hear bags getting it, and you're like, there's a gym around here. And you walk down
one of the most famous fighters to come out of my gym, people know him from Thai Fight now, PTT. He followed his neighbor. That's how he found the gym. And this was like, 10, 12 years ago, but his neighbor was running every day because you have to run as a Muay Thai fighter. And so he was like, I'm going to follow my neighbor and see where he's going. And that's how he found the gym. So Thais too. Like, oh.
Yeah. He didn't know the gym was down the street. Yeah.
Totally.
So I had a quick question. We're talking about big gyms and little gyms. I've been to both gyms out there. I've been to some pretty big gyms and some like pretty small gyms. Like one of the gyms that I went to, Jit Mung Nun. I was the only foreigner there, and I didn't speak any Thai, so I kind of had like the opposite of I mean, it was a really cool experience, but I didn't speak any Thai, so it was kind of hard to grasp like those higher level concepts that I think that they were trying to tell me.
Mm-hmm.
And I know that you speak Thai, but obviously I don't think you spoke Thai when you first came over there. Like, how much Thai would you say is like a good amount of Thai to go into like one of these gyms where they're not English speaking?
Yeah, that's a good question because a lot of people have this like fantasy of coming to Thailand and being in a gym where they're the only Farang and they're just totally immersed in it, and you're like, that might not be as awesome as you think it sounds. But at my first gym in Chiang Mai, a lot of English was spoken, so I got by really, really well, not speaking very much Thai. There's a lot of English in Chiang Mai in general, so even outside of the gym, going and looking at a menu and having English on it was really helpful. If you go into into a small town where you don't know what food is, and you're like allergic to something or don't want it to be spicy or anything like this, like the bare minimum of like not spicy, and just enough to be polite, like being able to say please and thank you, to show respect within this culture. Just that amount of Thai, I feel like, is enough. But Thai people in general are so touched by your efforts to learn their language that even if you're super shitty at it, they love you trying to speak Thai. I've had some very embarrassing moments of speaking Thai incorrectly because it's very easy to swear. It's a tonal language, so if you use the wrong tone, you're almost always cussing if you're not saying the correct word. And they have a good laugh about it. They don't tell you that what you've been saying is totally off. But they really, really appreciate the effort. So the effort really, I think, is kind of more important than whether you can speak it or not.
Yeah, I have a funny story. I remember back at the same gym, there's like a little restaurant outside there, and I forget what I was trying to order. It was something with a fried egg, and I mispronounced it, and I said buffalo penis, and the lady was just laughing at me.
I'm sure they referenced that every time you walked by again. They were like, there's that guy.
There's buffalo penis.
Yeah.
That's just, I was just trying to learn the colors, and I guess orange can be deciphered in a few ways too. So it's just like you said, just the different tones. And I'm like, no, that's what I'm saying. And she's like, don't say that. I'm like, no. I'm like, what do you mean? And then it's like, if
in the short term thing, I think that like just the super minimal, please, thank you, I'm tired, whatever, that's good for like short term. And Thais will help you. Like there's a woman at my gym right now who every day is like learning a word and like rehearsing the word she said before, and stuff like rain, just like whatever is coming up. Is it hot? Like that kind of thing. But in the long term, in terms of the experience that you can have at a gym and the relationships you can have with the people at your gym, I think it becomes more important the longer you stay to broaden your ability to speak Thai, just in terms of like integrating yourself into the relationship and like functioning processes of a gym. So short term, don't worry about it. Have your little like phrase book or something. But long term, I think it's a good idea to try to learn about the culture and try to learn the language.
So Sylvie, when you were did you learn all of your Thai while you were in Thailand, or?
I get this question sometimes. People ask me how long it took me to learn Thai, and I'm like, I don't know, because there are so many phases. Like, I actually first started learning before coming to Thailand. I had a tutor that I met with on Skype because it was important to me. So I don't know how much I actually retained from meeting with her. I don't know how much Thai I had for the first year living in Chiang Mai. I was too embarrassed to try to use it, like in everyday situations. And then again, I have some hilarious, super embarrassing stories of when I did try to speak Thai and said horrifically embarrassing things to my male trainers. And so I would say that like when my Thai actually took off is when we moved to Pattaya, because there's much less English here. So I was forced to speak Thai. Like I actually had to speak Thai to communicate with people, whereas in Chiang Mai I could always fall back on English. So to communicate in my gym, I had to speak a lot more Thai, but I also had to start booking my own fights. So I was writing and reading texts with promoters. I had to be able to speak enough when I would go to a fight and a promoter would come to me and be like, hey, will you come up to my province and fight? I had to, have enough to be able to put that into my phone and say that, yes, I did want to do this and stuff. So my Thai really took off out of necessity when we came to Pattaya. So while I've been learning it since before we moved here, my actual ability to speak it and indeed even be able to speak Diesel Noi, which is its own dialect, it's completely different. I can talk on the phone now, which I lived in Germany for 8 months, and I could not talk on the phone in German. Like, I had to see someone to understand it, but in Thai, I've finally gotten to that point where I can understand most of it on the phone.
So 7 years and I should be good, right?
Yeah. Cool. Start texting with people all the time.
Come on, if you use a line, it's just emojis and stuff anyway, so.
Totally.
So what prompted you to pursue the amount of fights that you're like your goal? You're very goal oriented, it seems. Like you set a goal and you're like, okay, here's the next phase of what we're doing. But when you go and you set a goal of 400 or 300 or whatever it is, like, what made you go to the extreme that you're going to now? You don't know anything else?
No, it's weird to hear myself described as a goal-oriented person, because I really don't think that I am. But obviously I am when I look at my track record. I think honestly it's picking something that sounds crazy enough that it'll keep you driving.
Yeah.
Like if I had picked 20 fights, let's not that'll happen, whatever. When I was getting close to 50, we already moved the goalpost to 100 before I got 50, because it's like, well, that's gonna happen. Like obviously 50 is gonna happen, so we got to move it to 100. And then from 100, it was like, well, let's just make it to 200. Like, let's just keep being insane. And what's the craziest thing about this is that once I surpassed 200 and we started talking about 471 at that point, people don't even question it. People are like, oh yeah, well, that's going to happen. Like nobody 7 years ago, if I was like, I'm going to fight 264 times in, 8 years, nobody would be like, yeah, that's going to happen. And now they're like, well, yeah. Like, obviously.
Yeah, you're already over halfway there. So they're like, oh, well, you already did it once.
It's
you can do it again.
I have people throwing more numbers on there just for fun. Like Karahat's like, well, you're American, so you should do 501 because I like Levi's. And I'm like, just add 35 fights to something. Yeah. Crazy.
Yeah, no problem.
Sure.
Look, it's just a couple more weeks, whatever.
Yeah.
How was training with Stan? She's so fun. She's like a fun person.
She was not like that when I trained with her.
Yeah?
She's very bright and sunny. She's very sweet. We had actually fought each other before, so we were opponents who then I went over there to get some clinch. She had just signed to Fairtex when I went over there. She was very fresh there. But she's just an incredibly sweet girl. Like she's just very funny and bright and respectful and things like this. I don't know what she's like now because she actually became a star after that happened. So it changes everybody. I'm not saying it changed her in a bad way, but I don't know how fun it would be to clinch her now. She might
take it very serious.
Yeah.
I met her over there.
She's a very sweet girl.
Yeah, I met her over there, and her little brother was there. And,
oh, Shogun.
Yeah, and I was talking to him, and they're like, "Oh yeah, he has 40 fights or something." I'm like, "What?" He's like 11 or something. I'm like, "This just doesn't make sense." But he was doing the same thing. Him and her, they were dancing and having fun. So I mean, she's very lighthearted, very sweet. But you don't know now that she has the reputation to uphold. To go in.
I don't think it would be so much a reputation, but just more guarded, you know, because like more people are coming through and looking at her now, and the pressure that you would have to be on that kind of stage. I don't think she's changed that much. I wouldn't imagine that she's changed that much, but she's also in her early 20s. I know I changed a lot when I was in my early 20s, but
definitely.
have you seen the documentary of her from when she's like 8 years old called Buffalo Girls?
I did a long time ago and cannot find it.
It's on. I think it's on YouTube.
What's that?
I think it's on YouTube. I might have a link to it, but they may have put it behind a paywall by now. But she's you look at her when she's 8 years old and you're like, oh yeah, like same.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I remember it. Yeah, but I wanted to watch it again after I had gone there, and I was like, oh man, I can't find it, so I'll have to look for it again.
Yeah.
So you just, I mean, you keep making these goals just to stay motivated. Like that's just the next step.
I don't know. I don't need to make crazy things to motivate myself, but I think that for me, it's been incredibly rewarding to see that I've changed the way people think. Like it's one thing to change what people think. You can do that. You can convince people of things. I've actually changed the way people think, which is that when they're coming to Thailand, people are now thinking, I'll fight 3 times in the 2 months that I'm there, instead of I'll fight once at the end so that if I'm injured, I don't miss any of my training. I think women now are like, oh, well, I'll go to Chiang Mai because I have a higher chance of fighting up there. It was really important to me from the get-go to get my opponent's names and record my opponent's names. It drives me absolutely crazy, and people still do it, but they're like, I went and fought a Thai, but they'll still talk about it like they beat Bukau, but they don't know his name. They're like, I defeated a Thai in a spectacular fashion, but like they don't have their name. I've noticed people are actually keeping track of their opponents' names now. They know a little bit about them, like what gym they come from. Those things are important to me, and I think that it's really cool that it's become important to other people in that process. So when I set a goal for something insane, like, you know, I'm at 264, the next goal is 300, but, you know, ultimately 471.
300?
It's not just to, like, motivate, like, you know, myself, like, oh, how do I get to training today? But it's because people think differently. Like, people are like, yeah, I could have 20 fights, whereas before it was like, oh, that's insane. Like, there's no way you could get 20 fights. And now people are, oh, that's totally achievable.
Now, you kind of spoke about it. What is your experience being a female fighter? I mean, obviously, the tradition, female fighters weren't even allowed in the ring. And still, what is it? Lumpini still has the sign on the ring that you can't, you know, touch the ring. So, like, personally, one, you're a foreigner and a female, but I don't know. That's why I'm asking. Is like it seems like you've almost surpassed being the female foreign fighter by having so many fights and being around so long. Is like, what has your experience been in a whole being a female foreign fighter?
That's a hard question because all of my experience is that. Like, I don't have an alternative. Like, that's everything.
Well, I mean, so have you found anything that maybe you saw that is difficult for you that wouldn't be for one of the guys or 100%, something along?
Like almost everything. Like almost every single thing you can think of is more difficult if you're a female fighter. For men, you can be an absolute muppet. Like, not really interested in training, not good, not motivated, going out and partying every night and coming in late in the morning, and you'll still be taken more seriously than a woman who's super dedicated and working really hard just because you're a man. The men are able to get access to a certain type of training just because they're men. And then on top of that, your experience as a man, because you've been raised in the world as a man, is you don't even know that other people are locked out of something that you're not, right? So, like, when I was in Chiang Mai, there was this guy who was like, how come you didn't clinch with us? And I'm like, because you're in the fucking men's ring. And he had no concept that there was a men's ring. And I'm like, because you're not excluded from it. So a lot of the experiences that men have when they come to Thailand, which are really beautiful, and I'm not saying in any way that this is like the fault of men or that they shouldn't have this, I'm just saying that women should have it too, is that there's like a built-in fraternity. Like you get plugged into this thing that already exists, which is like the masculinity of being a fighter, of fighting, of even if you never fight, you kind of get credit for it in this way. Whereas I've clearly proven myself many, many, many times over. I train harder than a lot of the people at my gym. I fought more than any of the boys at my gym. I push past pain way more than any of the boys in my gym. But I will never stop being a woman. And that's just not... There are, like, jokes made about me. Like, my trainers will be like, oh, well, you're Thai now already. Or, like, you're the same as a boy in your strength or whatever the thing is. But then they'll, like, contradict themselves immediately on top of that. And I think that the difficulty is that I still have this false hope that it's a meritocracy, that at some point I will have, like, done enough to be considered the way that even a doofusy man is considered. And it's just not that way. So honestly, I just have to let go of that possibility and instead just keep working towards the things that I want to accomplish. Because even though I have all of these hurdles in front of me, it hasn't stopped me from fighting 264 times. It hasn't stopped me from living in Thailand for 8 years. It hasn't stopped me from having very meaningful and respectful relationships with the people in my gym. It just means that there's like this constant like extra step that I have to take for everything.
Obviously, you have embraced all of Muay Thai. I mean, the culture, the people, everything. Being a woman, how do you feel about that extra step, the under the ropes, the not being able to touch the ring? Do you just accept that it's the tradition? And I mean, you don't have to, I'm not trying to put you in a position. It's just you have a point of view that I can't access.
Well, this is the thing that's difficult for me, is that it's talked about as though it's this super ancient tradition, and it's actually not. It's talked about like it's this like beautiful Buddhist thing that my Western feminism is coming in to destroy. It's not Buddhist at all. It's actually Hindu, and a lot of it's Brahmanist actually, but a lot of Thai people don't know why that is the way that it is. They don't know where that comes from. And very traditional Thais, my trainer is someone who will straight to my face be like, women do not fight at Lumpini. And then he'll kind of like pause and be like, but I don't really understand what this problem is because we all come from women. Like we're all born from women. So I don't understand why there's this like stain thing. So the clock moves. It just doesn't necessarily make any big changes yet. Mm-hmm. But my friend Angie, mm-hmm. She trained at she fought at Lumpini. She was the first presenting trans fighter at Lumpini ever. So Nong Toom had fought there before, but Nong Toom looked like a man when she fought. Nong Rose has fought at Rajadamner. Nong Rose doesn't take any kind of hormones. Angie has top surgery. Like she's very different. That just happened. Like we just have a trans fighter at Lumpini now, whereas that was not something that was ever happening before. So these changes can happen very, very quickly without like undermining the entire culture around it. You don't have to like throw away the traditions of Muay Thai and Thailand in order to get women to fight at Lumpini. You just have to let a woman fight at Lumpini. It's like really not that complicated. Yeah. So the things that kind of frustrate me about going under the bottom rope and things like this is that because I am so aware of the culture, I have sakyant, I'm covered in traditional belief systems. I why to wood and stuff that's in the corner of the ring, and I'm not doing it just because it's the custom. I'm doing it because these things are important to me. So when I crawl under the bottom rope, the reason that bothers me is because I believe the same things that would make a man not crawl under the bottom ring. Like, it is disrespectful to women. So being respectful to a culture that is not respectful of me is complicated. It doesn't mean that I don't respect it. It doesn't mean that I'm like trying to pull the roots out or anything like that. But obviously it's complicated.
Yeah. And it's funny that you were
That's how I
saying
feel.
that is like your trainer not understanding why. So many of the places I've been and trained in Thailand, and I've trained with some amazing trainers and with Sagat, thanks to you.
Ah,
But I've had trainers and I've said, you know, I'd love to have video to do a breakdown of the, you know, like why Kru Remoy. And that I've had trainers tell me that have trained very famous people, yeah, I don't want to do that. And I'm like, well, why? And they're like, my English isn't good enough to explain it because I wanted to know. I wanted to, like, you know, step by step, what are you doing? Why are you kneeling at the steps? Why? Not that I don't understand, but I wanted a Thai person to sit here and tell me exactly why you're doing it in this motion. And they couldn't because it's more that this is tradition. So it goes
Right.
back to exactly what you're saying is they don't know why you can't be in that ring. They know that they were told because of a tradition. Not that anything, like, it's not going to burn down.
Well,
You know,
it's totally like I'm old enough that I actually had to stand for the you know, Pledge of Allegiance every morning up until about second grade or something like this. I don't know why you put your hand on your heart. I don't actually know what most of those words mean unless I like write them down and go, oh no, I know what that means now. I don't know why you stand for the national anthem. I could explain to you why. I'm like, because standing is respect, because putting your hand on your heart is making a connection to your loyalty. I can make those connections if I think about it, but I would never think about it unless you asked me. Like,
exactly.
You just do it. Like, it's tradition in that sense. Yeah.
So, no, I totally get it, and it makes a lot of sense. I can understand how that could kind of, you know, weigh on you, being that you respect everything about the culture, the people, Muay Thai, and then it kind of doesn't respect you in a way. But I totally outside. I mean, you can tell me if I'm wrong, but I think that you would get so much fulfillment and love out of Muay Thai. Where is it just you deal with the negative that's outweighed by the positive that you get from engaging with these people and the culture and the tradition and the rest of it.
Yeah, I mean, none of it is like deal breaker kind of thing, and it's also not specific to Muay Thai or Thailand. Like, a woman anywhere in the world hits glass doors all the time. Like, sexism is not unique to Muay Thai or Thailand at all. So, you know.
But most places still don't put the sign on the ring, you know.
Yeah.
No, and I had friends tell me, and this isn't like bashing Thai, like, coming from America, we hide everything. We hide if we don't like people. We hide if you're racist. We hide everything, and then if it gets found out, you're like, it's just blown out, and you're like the worst thing in the world. Whereas when I went to Thailand, and I had Thai friends go, we don't like them, and I'm like, what? And it was like, yeah, we don't like them from there. And I'm like, oh, okay. And that was it. There wasn't a conversation about it. It was just like, nah. And it was just normal. And I'm like, oh, so I'm not I don't care. If you're a good person, you're good to me. And I don't see you doing bad to other people. Whatever your beliefs are, if you believe in aliens, it makes you a better person. Good for you. You know what I mean? Like, that's cool. But it's like, oh, well, there's coming from America where we don't voice our opinion anymore, and then going to Thailand and they'll tell you that you're fat every day, you know, and it doesn't seem like a negative thing. You know what I mean? Like, it just open. They're like, oh, well, you know, pum pui, and you're like, yeah, but come on, you know, it's like one of those things that it gets, you know, kind of just thrown out there. So kind of now that I have you, can you explain what exactly is going on in the Y Kru Remoy type from the beginning? I mean,
No, I can't.
What were you told? What were you told that you're doing, or are you just told this is what you do?
Well, the things that I can say that I understand, and again, I'm not an authority, so this is just what I understand, and I could be wrong. And
done it over 200 times.
But that doesn't mean I know. Again,
but
it's
if I had
learned.
done heart surgery 200 times, I might be an authority on heart surgery.
But you could do heart surgery 200 times and not know that the aorta is called the aorta. Like, that could totally happen.
But anyways,
yeah.
John Wayne Parr.
The things that I understand are that when you kneel before going up, you are prostrating yourself to the spirits of the ring. So rings are taking up space, right? So it could be the wood that they're made out of. It could be the land that they're on. So if you've seen spirit houses in Thailand, this is because anytime you construct something, you're displacing spirits. And so you give them somewhere to go, like you give them a home. Or if the ring is actually made from wood, there's spirits in the wood that you took, when you took the wood and put it here. So it's animism. Again, it's not Buddhism. In the West, we just throw everything that we know about Thailand to be Buddhism, and it's not. Animism predates Buddhism, and it's completely blended in with Thai culture. So they just totally work together, even though they don't come from the same traditions. So when you bow down before going in the ring, you're prostrating yourself to the spirits, literally, of the ring and of the space. And I was taught to put my glove on the ground and rub some of the dirt in my hair. And this is to remind you to be humble, that you're still just a person going into the ring, that you don't have this whole God complex of going in to smash somebody. And so when you go in, you seal off the ring. So when you go to each corner, you're closing off the space where this is going to take place. And I don't know traditionally where that comes from, whether it's you're allowed to do things in that space that you're not allowed to do outside of it, or whether it's actually protective. But the reason men go over the top rope is because of wearing the mongkon. You don't want anything to pass over that. So you have to be the highest point going over that. And then there are relics or amulets around the ring that, again, you don't want to pass over any of those things. So you kind of keep everything in this medium space. And then everyone has a different Ramoy, but the first part is always the Wai Kru part, which is where you bow down 3 times. I was taught by my teacher that you think of your parents, the king, and Buddha. Those are the 3 times that you bring your head down. Diesel Noi told me that it actually doesn't matter what 3 things you think of, but you just think of 3 incredibly important things that are, to you, teachers. And then once you go into the actual Ramoy part, people have different movements, but a lot of them are actually taking on characters from the Ramayana, which is the Thai creation story. So if you'll see people flapping their arms like this, they're being Garuda, which is a bird. You see the foot flapping, that's often Garuda as well. Some people do a Vishnu arrow shooting kind of thing. Some people have incredibly elaborate, beautiful things where they're catching fish, and usually that comes from where they're from. So they're actually making reference to what background they're coming from, if they come from a fishing village or if they come from farming. People, for some reason, think that only women do that makeup thing, but men do that one too, and they actually are kind of hot when they do it. So I think they do it really well. But yeah, there are different elements that have been brought in, and I think that a long time ago, the Ramoy that you did expressed a lot about where you were from and what lineage you were from, and now they all are just way more similar to each other, and they're much shorter. Sagat won Best Ramoy for 11 years in a row. His is so complicated. I think he has multiple different ones. The last time I saw him actually perform one, keeping in mind he's in his 60s, he ran along the catwalk that goes into the ring and leapt over the top rope, did a dive over the top rope and landed it slicker than any cat I've ever seen. And I was like, how is he doing that? It's incredible.
Yeah, he was awesome to train with, and like I said, thank you for kind of pointing me in the direction. And I remember when I finished training with him and I was standing there, we were just talking, and I said, "Man, what do you do to work out? His traps are huge,
and his calves are crazy too,
and his triceps are huge." And I'm like, "What do you do? Boxing?" I'm like,
"Yeah,
oh my god."
He's shaped like a hyena. He's got this whole shape. But this is part of the thing about the Muay Thai library that I do and preserve the legacy. I was saying earlier that a lot of it is trying to preserve the very, very quickly changing technique of Muay Thai. The kind of stuff that you see from Golden Age fighters just does not exist in contemporary Muay Thai, and they're aging out of being able to teach it. So preserving that is really important. But you, having stood in front of Sagat, can attest to this. I can describe Sagat pretty well. Like, he's a very interesting character, and I think when people talk about him, you can get an idea of what he's like. You have no fucking idea until you are standing in front of him how scary and amazing he is. He's like if your grandpa could kill you or something.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Like wearing a grandpa sweater, but he's like a caged tiger in front of you or something, and it's like, you cannot describe that, but you can kind of see it in a video. Like, he's so... The way that he'll, like, scare the shit out of you and then giggle, and you're like, interesting.
At the same time as, like, because I'm not a fighter, obviously, I don't have the fighter stamina. So even a person at that level, so, like, if at the end of the round, a thing that I love about Thailand is they take care of you. Oh, yeah, make sure you have water, make sure you stretch. Don't take your gloves off. I mean, things like that in the States when we're training, we just go do our own thing. There, your trainer takes care of you. And like, even like I had Sagat do it. When I trained at Samach's gym, he's like, in between rounds, he had another trainer take me over, and they have a fountain, and he's like, like hosing me down at the fountain and stuff like that. But so get into that. Like, what are you doing with that? Preserve the legacy. Like, what is that all about? And definitely, how do people get it? I know that you do donations and for the Kru Fund that goes straight to so get into that, because that's such an amazing thing that you put so much effort into, and I'd love people to know more about it.
Well, this is my Patron, so people can find this by going to my Patron. But the Muay Thai Library is just part of all of the documentary projects and things that I'm doing with my Patron. But we have almost 100 hours right now, which is insane, of the Muay of Thailand. We try to get Golden Age fighters to show their technique and their kind of... The thing about the Golden Age, to me, that's really amazing is that the fighters were incredibly charismatic, and they expressed themselves through their Muay in a way that I just don't see as much anymore now. So you would have these fighters who just had everything. They could do everything. But then they had their kind of like superpower. So Thor can do most of the stuff that Superman can do, but he's got that hammer. So that's Thor, right? And then like Spider-Man's got the webs and like stuff like this. That's kind of what these Golden Age fighters are like. They can all do everything. But then holy shit, you see Diesel Noy's knees. Or like Chumuak Pet just has this kind of way of moving. Or I actually was not a huge fan, and I understand why people get mad at me when I say this, but I was not a huge fan of Samart's fighting style. It's just not what I love to watch when I'm watching. When I met him and stood in front of him and had his like style flowing in front of me, I went, oh, I get that. Like, I see what's going on here. And it's this charisma. It's this like kind of the way that they put the vocabulary together. It's like everyone speaks English, but nobody speaks English quite the way Kurt Vonnegut does. Nobody does it quite the way, Joyce was doing it or something. That's why you get these kind of like pillars of literature, is because of the way they put their words together. That's what the technique of Muay Thai can be, is just these like incredibly poetic expressions of masculinity. So the Muay Thai Library project is preserving that technique, as well as the men who are expressing it. And it's just, it's so cool. Like, people are getting way into fighters that they kind of weren't as into before. Because they'll go into the library and they're like, all right, well, let's see who this trainer is. And then they're like, oh man, Nam Kabuin's really interesting. And so they go watch all the Nam Kabuin fights and they get really interested. We started asking the top fighters who their top 5 were. Wichinoi just keeps coming up over and over and over as number 1. And so people were like, let's look up Wichinoi. It's totally just like, nobody knew who he was. Not because he's not important, but because in the West, what do we have access to? We have access to things that are in English. Like, you can't Google Wichinoi's name in Thai unless you speak Thai, so you have to have a video that has his name in English. And then you may not be able to understand even which one he is unless you already know what he looks like, because the names,
Right.
like, I'll give everyone a hint. When you're watching a video, the first name that's listed, that's the red corner. And then the blue corner comes second. And less
Okay.
people mess it up, but that can help you if it's always listed in that order if people are doing it correctly. So we've also been able to, through the Patron, there was this Holy Grail fight, which was the fight of the century. It happened in 1982 on Christmas Eve, and it was two of the greatest of all times, Diesel Noi versus Samart, and they were fighting each other to see who would be named Fighter of the Year for 1982. This fight is like, everyone knows about it, everyone talks about it, but nobody had seen it because there was no video of it. And then because people are more familiar with Diesel Noi now than they were 5 years ago, because of the library, because I talk about them all the time, because there's visibility to them, someone actually found this fight. One of my patrons found this fight because one of the fighters on that same card had left a VHS at his gym. And so they just looked through it. And again, it's like, you have to know what you're looking for. I don't know what Wichinoi looks like, right? So you're watching a tape, you don't know who you're watching. So we got this Holy Grail fight of Diesel Noi versus Samart. So now people can see it. And we grabbed Diesel Noi and interviewed him and then had him watch it with me and talk about it while we're watching it. What's so cool about this thing, not only as a documentary project, we also did Nam Kabuin watching his fight with Decker. So you get Nam Kabuin talking about Decker, which Westerners are way more into. The cool thing about this Diesel Noi versus Samart fight is that not only did my husband and I completely geek out about this, Diesel Noi got really excited about it, and now he's like sent me a wish list of all the fights he wants me to find of his, which I'm like, I'll try. But Thai people are really excited about this. Like, I posted this video on Thai language forums that are like for Thai fans from Golden Age and stuff, and Thai people are completely excited about this, and they love the interview with Diesel Noi too, because I interviewed him in Thai and it's got English subtitles so Thai people can watch it, and they're like, oh my god, he's so charming. Very nice guy. It's very cool.
That is awesome. I mean, like I said, I mean, you're, I don't know if it'd be an icon, but you're part of Muay Thai. You're part of Muay Thai history. Like, you've put yourself in there, though. Like, it didn't happen because you came from a great camp. Like, you, like, you know what I mean? Like, somebody, when they're young, I mean, like a stamp comes and gets, moved from camp to camp and stuff like that, and they get brought up as a Thai fighter. You were like, this is what I'm doing. And you went full bore. And you've created all these different things. And like you just said, it is with what you're doing with these different things, these different projects, is you're giving light to the fighters and to the things that people would never see. I mean, you found a fight that Thais hadn't seen. Like, that's, I mean, it's what you're doing. And I'm not trying to just gas you up and be like, oh, you're great. But like, what you're doing really is huge for Muay Thai.
Yeah, I don't mean to gas myself up either, but those things, the things that I'm doing, because I'm so passionate about them, I'm like, yes, that's awesome. I get uncomfortable when people are like, Sylvie is the greatest fighter of whatever. I'm like, I can't handle this. But if it's like Sylvie produced some of the greatest content on the internet, I'm like, damn straight. Totally. Like, the library is incredible. And it's everything. I wouldn't say it happens by accident, because it's not like, oh, whoops, I have 100 hours of footage of these Golden Age fighters. That's not how that happens. Like, it takes a lot of work. But I never know what the next thing is going to be. Like, Kevin and I, just every time the Patron grows, it allows us opportunity to get better equipment. It allows us better opportunity to travel to find people. We were able to drive into Bangkok and have an interview, kind of like informal talk with Diesel Noi and Wichinoi. That now there's, this footage online for that. Siri Mongkon, who was Fighter of the Year in 1972, just unexpectedly died of a heart attack. We just happened to have interviewed him like 4 months before. So the last remaining footage of Siri Mongkon is our footage. and you can't see that happening. It's just that the passion for it and the process and the generosity of our patrons allowing us to keep doing these things. It's like, now let's try this, now let's add that, now let's get more of this. It's really exciting, and I'm like the most documented fighter in the world because I've been documenting myself from the beginning. And that was not a like, I'm so awesome, let me show myself to everybody. It was kind of in the same vein as what I'm doing with the library now, is like, Master K is incredible and he super inspires me, and I cannot fit in my head everything he says to me in an hour. So let's film it and put it up. Me looking like an ass because I cannot figure out what he's telling me to do has been my process the whole time. We don't do like highlight videos. We do long form so that you can see a teacher actually teaching it. You can see a student actually not understanding it and then understanding it, kind of slow process. And you actually get to see like the style come out rather than like, and this is a kick and that's an elbow. Like it's not a video game. You have to make sure you get the axe and the gun kind of thing. And I'm super fortunate that Kevin is as brilliant as he is and as supportive as he is. Like, I could not do any of the things that I do without my husband. And he is so passionate and keen on all of these things. And obviously, I'm the one who's gotten in the ring 264 times, but he's the one who's had my back 264 times. He's pushed me in lots of different ways. So I'm definitely not a one-man army in any sense. Like, so many people have helped me along the way. My patrons, my trainers, my teachers, my husband, everybody.
Yeah, like I said originally, is we'd love to have probably you and Kevin on at some point. And kind of just, because it would be nice to see, because what you're doing is, you are the fighter. He may not be the trainer, but he's everything else. So, and then he also has his own things going with the photography and things like that. So I think that would be really cool too. So
he's just like, I'm going to start doing this, and then he's incredible at it. Like,
yeah, no, they're really good. So yeah, that's awesome. So I mean, down the road, if you're willing, I think that'd be really cool to have. Your Patron, how do people find it? I'll put it in the link, but once we're talking about it, if people see this, I want them to know how to get to it.
It's actually super easy because it's patreon.com/Sylvie Muay.
Okay.
Sylvie might be hard to spell, and Muay might be spelled wrong a bunch of times, but you'll get there if you just try it. But everything on Patron is just incredible, and everything on Patron supports all of my projects, even the ones that are not behind a paywall. So my patrons support things that we put out for free on YouTube, and as well as my 8limbsus.com is my blog. And I've had that since we first moved to Thailand, so that one goes way back. And it's one of these things. People have a joke about like everything was on The Simpsons, right? So they're like, what's the Simpsons episode that talks about like Trump becoming president or whatever? I've been doing this for so long that you can literally Google your question and it will find my blog. You can be like, hey, Sylvie, what do I do when my shins hurt? And you will find my blog. It's crazy. There's a blog post on everything.
Well, I had to put one up when I needed to figure out how to get my monk unblessed. That's when I used the blog.
Brilliant. You wrote so many things, which was so helpful. Lots of people found that very helpful.
Well, I had looked for it, and then when I spoke to you briefly, and you kind of gave me an idea where to go, and then I was like, somebody needs to kind of show at least the process so we get an understanding, and then how to get to do it, because we don't know. You think you just walk into any temple and get it done, but the ladies were amazing. Like the first guys that I talked to, they're like, I don't know, you have to go somewhere else. But the ladies that were selling I think they're selling flowers at the front of the temple. She's like, wait, do you want? I'll get the motorbike, and she called the monk and set everything up for me at the other temple, and then wrote it all in Thai, said, here, give this to the motorbike taxi. He'll take you there. So I go there, and then the motorbike taxi says, what are you doing? And I explain to him, I show him the monk. Oh, do you speak Thai? I'm like, no. He goes, I'll take you. So he took me through the whole process too. Like, he sat with me. So, I mean, it was like, and that's the thing that people don't understand, because in America, we're so us. These people didn't know me. Like, they had no idea what I was doing, but they saw what I was doing, and they wanted to be a part of that, and that was amazing. And that's why I was like, I have to show all of this. It was great.
Sure. There's we've had some really incredible moments because we travel for my fights, and so we'll be in the middle of nowhere. Like, there aren't even street lights. They're just these, like, vast fields on either side. And you just trust that, like, your GPS is right. And then you're in the middle of a field and you're like, this probably isn't right. So we've had many cases where we're just in the middle of nowhere and we'll stop at just, like, you know, some corner store that sells, like, soda and toilet paper. And I'll ask these people, do you know where this temple is? Because that's where I'm trying to fight. And they'll just, like, get in their truck and drive you there.
Yeah.
And then we, like, try to give them a little bit of money as, like, a thank you. And they're like, oh, no, that's crazy. Don't do that.
Yeah.
You're like, they're so nice. Like,
Yeah.
crazy.
I mean, when I first went, I kind of was like, what are they trying to pull? You know, like, I'm like, why would you do anything for free? Why are you offering me food? Is it poison? Like, well, I don't get this. And then, you know, once you start realizing the culture, you're like, oh, this is just normal. And so you're offering food when you see people come by. Oh, do you want to try this? You know, it's amazing. And that's what when I started Fight Chase, and it wasn't to be like, I started Fight Chase, the whole website and things to kind of just not inspire people to do Muay Thai. That's what I'm doing with it. It was more just to get you to realize that if you want to do something, just take that step. Because that first step of me, Kurt was in Thailand, and that first step of me going to Thailand, the farthest I left out of the country was Canada when I was younger. I lived in upstate New York. It was an hour drive. I mean, literally, that's where I went and got a passport, went and visited Thailand, and I fell in love immediately. But I fell in love with the tropical Thailand. And so when I went back, I had to start experiencing the culture. And when I did, I was just overwhelmed, and I have to be there. And so it's like, what I try and do is just whatever it is. If it's Muay Thai or Thailand, and I can give you a little glimpse of how to make it not so scary, to get there and find your own adventure, you know, get your own experience. That's all I want to do. If it's to give you information about one gym, or Kurt and I did a podcast about just how to get there, how to get your visa, where to go to your post office to get your passport, to then get a visa, and, you know, just lay it out as simple as possible. Because before I went, it was a million miles away, this foreign land that was a slum in my mind. It's beautiful, but there's no technology. I don't know what's there. Do they have internet? You know, you don't know. And so, like, if you like what you're doing by putting out all of this Muay Thai information and people can grasp all of this, what I try and do is just kind of put out these little, like, tidbits of, here, it's not that bad, but I don't have my journey, have yours. Here's how you get your visa. Don't worry about your visa. Get there and then figure it out. You know, like, you don't have to have the resort vacation planned. That's, you know, and I have many friends that have done that, have gone over and they've done that, and I love Thailand, and they never go back because they loved Thailand. And it was like they were at, you know, Phi Phi Island for a day. They were at, you know, they've gone to 3 different islands and went to, you know, wherever, like, they flew into Bangkok but never saw Bangkok. And it's like, you haven't seen Bangkok? Right. That's crazy. And, you know, the girl that we had on that had actually fought in Phuket has never gone to Bangkok. And she was there a full year. I'm like, you haven't gone to Bangkok? You haven't trained in Bangkok? I mean, it's a different world. Like, it's just not the same. So, like, just to open people's eyes is kind of, you know, that's why, like, I love what you're doing. And I mean, that's why everybody loves what you're doing. It's a perspective that, like you said, we in the States especially, all right, we'll fall in love with MMA. And oh man, those Muay Thai kicks from Anderson Silva were amazing. And you're like, really? Back then, they, like, if you didn't have any other knowledge, you're like, wow, that Muay Thai is cool. And then you're like, I go and you experience it and you see it more and you start really getting into it. And I told Kurt, I was like, I've become one of those kind of douchebag guys where I don't like MMA anymore. like just,
you're elitist.
I don't think that's not being a jerk. It's just your eyes change, you know? Like, it's you just don't see things the same way that you did, or you don't hear things the way that you used to, or something like that. Like, it's I don't know, it's not to knock anything else. It's just that you just don't see it the same way. Like,
oh, definitely.
I grew up with Kickboxer, And I watched that again for the first time in many years, like the first year that we were in Thailand, and I'm like, what the hell is it? He's doing like splits and taekwondo, and all the actors are Chinese. Like, what the hell is going on?
Exactly. Yep.
Like my eyes just like, oh, now I know what I know what I'm doing.
Exactly. You look and you're like, but then when you do see a movie, like any movie, and they're in Bangkok or they say they're in Thailand, you're like, that's not Thailand. You know what I mean? Like they're like, oh yeah, they're what was it? I think Rambo, and it was like they said they were in Cambodia or something. They weren't in Cambodia. It's just like you get so used to these things, and it's kind of like you said, your eyes have been opened to so much different stuff that it becomes like, oh, okay, I get it. Yeah, it's like I love MMA. I love to train MMA. I don't love the comparison to MMA. Like to what?
I think that the problem is that people who get really into MMA, and that's really their only exposure, is the kind of MMA version. They haven't seen the pure forms teased out. Yeah. I don't know what pure jiu-jitsu looks like at all. Like I've never watched a jiu-jitsu competition. So what I know is MMA jiu-jitsu. And people thinking that they're watching Muay Thai when they're watching Donald Cerrone or Joanna Champion or whatever, the thing is, like, that it's nobody's fault. They've just never seen like what the reference came from. So it's like actually going and listening to blues because Led Zeppelin said they were inspired by it, rather than thinking that you know what blues sounds like because you know what Led Zeppelin sounds like. Like they don't actually sound anything alike, but every now and then you'll hear that guitar chord that you're like, oh, no, I know where that came from. But I remember my first fight in Virginia, they had Muay Thai happening here, and then they had a cage over to the side, and they were happening simultaneously. So there were like 2 rings with Muay Thai fights happening at the same time, and then like an MMA cage at the same time. And I have 3 brothers. The middle one was a wrestler in high school, and he was watching the MMA cage because there was wrestling in it. And so he's watching it, and he's like, I don't understand why they don't. And then the guy threw an elbow, and he goes, oh.
Yeah.
Oh. So if I'm watching MMA, and I'm like, that's not Muay Thai, it's because the rules are different. Like, you can't get taken down in Muay Thai the way that you can in MMA, so it can't look the same. But at the same time, do not tell me that that's Muay Thai.
Exactly. Yeah.
It can't be. It's a different sport.
When I've ever told any trainer in Thailand, I'm like, yeah, they're like, oh, in America you train Muay Thai. I'm like, yeah, but I also train jiu-jitsu. And they're like, what is that? I'm like, fighting on the ground. They're like, why would you fight on the ground? And then, if you tell them that you've trained MMA, they're like, oh, MMA. Okay, come on. And I'm like, what? And they'd be like, you can take me down. And then you pretend to shoot on them.
Knee you in
they
the
go,
chest.
oi! And
Immediately.
I'm like, it's not exactly, but I understand what you're thinking. Because Muay Thai is the only thing that exists, but I get it. I'm like, yes, but no. All right. Anyways. Other than that, I mean, I don't want to keep you too much longer. It's getting late over there for you. Kurt, you have any questions?
Yeah. So usually when we have fighters on, I kind of ask them all similar questions, and this will be a fun one because you've had so many fights. How do you, like, going into a fight, like, how do you handle fear, like the nerves before you get into the ring? Do you have any, like, process that you go through?
It's changed a lot over the years. But I think that the thing that helped me the most, like kind of a breaking point for me, was the point when I realized that there's nothing wrong with being nervous. There's something wrong if you're not nervous at all. If you're about to jump out of a plane, you should be a little nervous. Like, if not, you're kind of not in the right headspace.
Yeah.
But I think that early, I thought there was something wrong if I was really nervous or if I was really scared of my opponent. And so I would try to, like, block it out. And you can't really do that. So now I see it as part of the process to get nervous. I actually kind of get nervous at the same time in the evening when I'm starting to get ready for my fights and stuff. And I liken it to how you get sleepy before you go to bed. Like, it's just part of the process, is that knowing that fear or that nerve is going to come with me into the ring. It doesn't get to stay out there. So if I take it in with me, I know to not give it too much significance. Like, don't let the fear control me, because then I'm just going to freeze in front of my opponent. it can come in with me, but it's got to kind of like, you know, have its place in the ring. And I think that realizing that the thoughts that you have are just thoughts. Like the thought, I'm so tired, there's no way I'm going to make it through this fight, is no more real than I have so much energy I could fight the next chick if they just gave me another one. Like those are opposite thoughts, and they're equally unreal to each other. So if you're having all of this, like, I'm not ready, I'm tired, I can't even breathe, all of this stuff, they're all just thoughts. Those are just words in your head. So focusing on the actual, like, energy that you're bringing into the ring with you is way more important than the thoughts you're having in your head.
That's one of the better explanations.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, aside from
it a few times.
aside from Sagat's explanation that you're not his father or mother, did you see that? Did you see that video? That he said, he's like, why am I scared? You're not my dad.
I don't think I've seen that. That's fun.
That's pretty good, yeah. Go ahead, Kurt.
So next one I have, like, what advice would you give to fighters that are just starting out? Just like any general advice that you would give to them.
I've said this one before. I think I actually wrote a blog post about it, which is that when you first start, you're going from nothing to something, and that's a huge leap. Like, the difference between 0 and 1 is way bigger than the difference between 1 and 2. So people think that they're plateauing at a certain point, but it's actually just a natural state of your progress. Like, to go from not knowing anything to knowing something, you're like, oh my god, I'm learning so fast. Like, I'm a child prodigy or something. That's not the case. And so when you start to hit that part where you slow down and it feels like a plateau, the only way that you ever actually stop getting better is if you stop. It's the stopping part. You will get better by continuing on. There's no way you can get worse. And I think that people just have to have patience when they've gotten a little bit of experience. Because when you first start, you have no expectations. And then you start having expectations on yourself. You're like, well, I could kick yesterday and now my kick is crap, so I must be crap. And it's like, no, things are different every day. Like, I don't have a stutter, but sometimes I stutter. Like, I don't panic and be like, oh my god, now I stutter. It's like, no, I just like didn't get that word out. So I think that especially for beginners, they tend to overemphasize and think that things are a much bigger deal than they actually are. Like, you're going to have bad days, you're going to have bad fights, you're going to have days that you don't want to do it. That doesn't mean that you're unmotivated now and can't get yourself back on the horse. It just means that you haven't experienced this part yet, and now you're experiencing it, and so that just goes into the entire pile of all of it. Like, you have to experience bad days in order to have the entire picture. You can't just have, like, I'm super motivated every single day.
Yeah, I think that was a very good answer as well. Yeah, I mean, I've been doing this forever, and I still feel like I do that to myself sometimes. Like, I have a bad training day, and I'm like, oh, I'm just not good anymore, you know? Yeah. So it's good. It's always good to hear people say that.
It's the craziest thing. Like, people think that at some point you're just going to be good. Like, yeah. I'm good now. Like, everything's great. It's like, what in your life is actually like that? You never, like, get that thing done and then you're just awesome from then on out. Like, we're talking about our eyes changing. You actually just get more and more minute in the things that you're critical of. Like, you could actually be way more awesome than you were yesterday, but you're just stuck on that one little thing that your foot is doing, and you're like, I'm terrible. It's like nobody else sees it except you. It's like, you think that once you get married, it's going to be perfection for the rest of your life. It's like, no, you've actually just chosen the person who you're going to grow with. Like, there are going to be all of these different processes in that. You don't get to, like, be a fighter. You have to actually be a fighter. It's a verb, not a noun. Right?
You're not a fighter.
Right. Like, I did that. I'm a fighter now. Like, yeah, no. It's an active state.
And then next question I have is, what loss or setback have you learned the most from?
Oh, man. I don't think that I could pinpoint one, but there are definitely, like, a few times, like, dotted in my career that I kind of like took a leap after them. So there was an early one, probably like my 80th or 81st fight. That's early for me. Where I had just like, I'm sorry for swearing, but we call it shitting the bed. I had just shit the bed in this fight so bad. It was so embarrassing. And I had another fight like 4 days later. And I'm like, how am I going to go from how I feel losing this fight to fighting on the Queen's birthday in Bangkok against the Japanese prodigy Saya Ito, like on a stage. And I think that it just like I don't want to feel like the way I felt in that loss just pushed me in the way that I needed to. It's like throwing a grenade where you're standing. You'll move because it's like where you're at. Is I just moved, and I think that was the breaking point when I really got serious about my mental training. And I knew that I couldn't physically change myself in those 4 days between those two fights, so I just focused on my mentality only. And I ended up winning that fight, which was a huge deal. Like, everything about it was high pressure. And I handled it really, really well. So I went from shitting the bed to like doing this amazing thing in 4 days. And then I had another fight that probably was in like it was after 200, maybe like 215, 220, something like this. I fought this opponent who's world champion, who I fought 8 times, and I lost to her, and I've lost many times to her. I've beat her before as well, but I lost to her, and I just like, it wasn't even that embarrassing of a loss. It's not embarrassing to lose to her. She outweighs me by like 15 pounds, and she's world champion. But I just like, Kevin and I call it the alley tears fight, because I just like broke down in the alleyway walking back to our apartment. I just like broke down and couldn't handle it. And it was, again, one of these things that's like, you have to change. Like, you've been holding on to this thing that's like, oh, I'll just work harder. I'll just get better. I'll just focus more. And it's like, no, you actually have to like let go of something. There's a proverb about this guy who's going to see like a guru, and he comes across 3 characters along his way, and they each ask him to ask the guru how to accomplish something that they haven't been able to do. And my favorite one is he comes across a turtle that hasn't been able to become a dragon, but he's like done all of the things that you're supposed to do. He meditates every day. He's done all of the things that you're supposed to do in order to become a dragon. And what the guru tells him is you have to let go of your shell. You can never become the dragon if you don't let go of your shell. And it's one of these things that's like, you have to let go of who you are. You have no idea, even if you like are so critical of yourself, there's something comfortable about the same critique and the same criticisms you give yourself every day. You're holding on to who you are at the expense of who you can be. And I think that that's what that alley tears situation was for me, was the fact that I can still be embarrassed to lose to a world champion who outweighs me by 15 pounds. Fucking let go. Let go of that so that you can actually, move to the next thing. And you can't predict those moments. So for me, the like, what are the hardest things along your path is the things that I've refused to let go of until the moment that you just have to let go of it. It's really hard to convince yourself to do it, but at some point it's just like, you have to drop it.
Definitely. You got anything else, Kurt?
Good stuff. Last question I have for you is, who would you consider your favorite opponent, or who are your favorite opponents, people that you fought that you really enjoyed fighting?
One of them is the opponent who gave me the alley tears, Tananchino Kusamrit. I fought her 8 times. I beat her twice. Oh, wow. And she's just like, I don't mean to fangirl so hard when I talk about her, but every time I talk about her, like, her form, like, her technique is just so beautiful. I think they call it being posterized, where, like, you're getting dunked on by, like, Jordan or something. Every single photo of this opponent is, like, picture perfect. Like, her hair is perfect, like, this, like, thing, and she's, like, throwing the thing perfectly. I learn from fighting her every single time. And I think that she challenges me in a way that makes me scared to fight her, but really grateful every time I get to fight her. So Tanan Chinook is one of my favorites. I also have fought this opponent, Nang Hong, Leon Prasert, also maybe about 7 or 8 times. Although I beat her all except one. She cut me, like one of my worst cuts ever. She got this vein in my head that I had to go to the hospital and get it re-stitched, like deeper after our fight. So I have this vengeance. Even though I beat her, I'm like, I have to get Nang Hong every time I fight her. But the thing I really like about her is that it's not, I don't know if I can explain this as quickly as I want to. When you watch male fighters, there's a lot of pride and dignity involved in even pretty low-level male fights. With female fights, it's way more of a sport. Like, you don't see as much, like, focus on dominance or pride. Nang Hong fights with pride, and I really like this about her. She is, like, the queen of eye contact, and, like, if I put her on the ground, she gets up so fast to come kick my ass. I used to really dislike her, because of this like history we had together, and I think because I was afraid of her, even though I'm able to beat her, I think that I've really come to like Nang Hong. Like, she's grown on me in a way that I'm like, she is badass. I really like her. So Tanan Chinook and Nang Hong are two that come to mind.
That's cool.
Very cool. That it, Kurt?
Yeah.
All right. So, like I said, I don't want to keep you too much longer, and I have some really nothing to do with anything questions. So, you're already small, and you're fighting people 15 pounds heavier than you, so you don't have to cut weight. But so usually I ask, what is your favorite cheat meal? But for you, what is your favorite meal that you're like, oh, I shouldn't have had that yesterday when you go to training? Something you know you shouldn't have.
I don't think I have that. And the reason I don't have that is because it makes me feel so bad. Like, not mentally bad, like I was naughty and I shouldn't have eaten that, but I actually just feel like physically, like, this was not worth it.
Yeah.
So I don't think I have that. I eat for ketosis, and my husband and I do alternate day fasting, so I actually only eat every other day.
Oh, wow.
So I kind of can't think of anything that would be like worth feeling that shitty.
Anything on your fasting day.
I think that if I can like rework your question, the thing that I miss the most is like mangoes.
Yeah.
I really miss mangoes.
Mangoes are good.
All right. How about your favorite movie? Like your go-to movie, whether it's after a tough fight or for inspiration or whatever it is.
My husband and I like to watch Blade Runner like once a year. I really like Blade Runner. When I was growing up, I think that I would say my favorite movie was Taxi Driver. Although Travis Bickle is way less of a hero to me now. As I've gotten older, I'm like, I don't know, this guy's kind of a creep.
Right. All right. And so the big question is, do you believe in aliens?
You're off.
That's the only reason that we brought you here.
This is a long-winded way of getting to this question.
Yeah.
Let me
We
put
asked
it this
everybody.
way. I do not believe that there are aliens like watching us and monitoring us in the way that a lot of people who are way into that think about that. However, if it were to come to light that there were, alternate dimensions or life on other planets or something like that, I would not be like mind blown. I'd be like, that kind of makes sense.
So it's a possibility.
Yeah, this is weird because in Thailand the belief in ghosts is really big. Like, it's really real. If you ask me, I'd be like, I don't believe in ghosts, but I totally have like seen ghosts. My belief in things and my experience with things don't always like mesh super well. But
John Wayne Parr has some crazy stories about the ghosts when he was in Thailand and when he was first
when he ordained, he had like a ghost sitting on his chest, right?
Yeah, he told that story, and then he also told like when he was staying at one of the first camps and he put his feet like on the wooden post in the middle of the camp, and one of the boys like jumped and like tackled him
can't do
because
that.
yeah, exactly. But he didn't know, so one of the boys was like, "You can't do that."
Yeah. There's a John Wayne Parr and I actually go way back because the first time I ever got cut in a fight, which was in America, they glued me. Like I didn't actually get stitches. My corner was an ER doctor, and she had glue that she glued for me. And John Wayne Parr is so known for all of his stitches. I tweeted him, and he made fun of me. He was like, "You can't have a stitch count if you don't get stitches," basically calling me a sissy. And so now John Wayne Parr and I are like,
I see
edging each other. I've had like 218 stitches or something. And here's the thing. I'll say this online about John Wayne Parr. He says that this is the one competition that he doesn't mind losing. I do not believe for 1 second that guy is not competitive about the stitches. He says it. But if I edged past him, I know it would bother him.
Well, I don't know, because he was retired, and then he had signed, I think he said a 6-fight deal with one. Mm-hmm. So I don't know, maybe you're getting a little too close, and he's got to make sure he gets a few more in. That way, like, he was retired, he was home, he was doing nothing, and if he's like, oh, she's going for 300 fights now, I got to get back in there. So it could be it. I've seen the pictures. No. Really? Oh, man. All right, Sylvia, I don't want to keep you too much longer. I know it's late. I totally appreciate it. It's been awesome talking with you. You've been so much information. It's been awesome. So your social media, also send them to me in a message, and I'm going to put them in the link. But your social media, your Patron, anything else that you want to like promote, anything like that to get out there?
I am on all the social media. I'm pretty easy to find. If you just Google Sylvie and Muay Thai, you will find me. But I'm on Instagram, Twitter. I'm on Reddit, YouTube, Facebook, all of these things. So you can find me in all of those places. But really, the gems that you want to go for are my 8limbsus.com blog and my Patron, because there's just incredible stuff in my Patron, and it's so huge that it's like trying to find the end of the internet. There's so much in there that it's you'll never run out. And
T-shirt Tuesdays, and you have too much going on.
Did you see my shirt from Sagat for T-shirt Tuesday?
I did, yeah. A little jealous.
That is a beautiful shirt. Really
yeah. Nice. I'm like, I gotta go back to 13 coins now. I saw that. Is he gonna stay there now that Mr. Koch has passed away?
Yes. Yeah, he's back there already. He went home to Ayutthaya for a little while during the lockdown, but he's back in Bangkok already. So. Okay.
Yeah, I definitely want to go back and visit him there. But other than that, Sylvie, thank you so much. I truly appreciate it.
Yeah, it was
great.
Thank you
for
coming on.
And like I said, I'll hit you up before we put this out. But other than that, have a great night. Enjoy Thailand, and as soon as I can get back over there, I'll be there. I'll be back probably in Pattaya, so we'll have to hook up, and I want to get some training in over with you guys.
For sure.
All right. Have a good night. Thank you so much.
All right,
thanks, guys.
Bye.
Good night.
Thank you once again for listening to the #1 combat sports podcast, the Fight Chase Muay Thai and MMA podcast. You can follow us on Fight Chase on all the social media, YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, all that good stuff. And also, don't forget you can support us at any time going to the anchor.fm/fightchase, hit the support icon, and you can support us for as little as 99 cents a month. We truly appreciate it. Thank you for listening. And Kurt, don't say boom.
Boom.
Locks out moisture, seals in freshness. Good night, Irene. Double hammer fist, double hammer fist, double hammer fist. Seconds remaining for a great survival